History by the Hour, Episode 3, Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. The Pacific Ocean stretches endlessly beneath a sky that feels unusually calm, almost deliberately still, as if the world itself is holding its breath before something unseen is allowed to begin. There's no storm on the horizon, no movement in the clouds, only a soft, pale light spreading across the island of Oahu, slowly revealing a landscape that appears untouched by urgency. The air is warm, humid, and still. Even the ocean seems unusually controlled, its surface smooth enough to reflect the faint morning sky like glass. Palm trees along the shoreline move only slightly, their motion so subtle it almost feels like pause rather than wind. And at Pearl Harbor, the United States Pacific Fleet rests in perfect formation, warships anchored across wide channels of water, steel hulls rising and falling gently with the tide, aircraft parked in rows along airfields, maintenance crews moving with quiet repetition, sailors beginning routines that feel no different from any other Sunday morning. There is no urgency, no tension, only structure, rhythm, and the comfort of predictability. And yet, beyond the horizon where sight ends and uncertainty begins, something is already in motion. Japanese carriers move silently across the Pacific. Aircraft are being prepared in coordinated waves, fuel systems checked, weapons armed. Pilots briefed in silence, every motion precise, every action deliberate. A strike force designed not for warning, but for timing, for impact, for overwhelming force delivered all at once. And its destination is already set. This is the beginning of the attack on Pearl Harbor. And at this moment, there is still no alarm, no confirmed warning, and only silence, continuing forward as if nothing is about to change. 6 a.m., a morning that feels ordinary in every detail. Dawn breaks slowly over Oahu. Light spreads across the harbor in soft gradients, touching the surfaces of battleships that sit motionless in calm water. The reflections ripple slightly, then settle again as the tide evens itself. On the decks of ships, sailors begin their routines with practiced familiarity. Some clean brass fittings along railings that already shine from repetition. Others check mechanical systems that require daily attention, even in peace. A few lean against railings for brief moments of quiet, watching the harbor without urgency. Inside mess halls, coffee is poured into metal cups. Steam rises briefly before dissolving into the warm air. Laughter is low and casual. Conversation moves slowly between topics unrelated to war or conflict. On shore, civilian life continues with equal calm. Church bells prepare to ring across neighborhoods. Cars move lightly along quiet roads. Families begin waking inside homes filled with morning sunlight. Children remain asleep in rooms untouched by the world outside, and for a brief, fragile moment, everything feels stable enough to believe in. 7 a.m., a signal that does not fit the pattern. Far from the harbor, radar operators begin noticing movement on their screens. A formation appears, large, structured, unidentified. The operators observe carefully, adjusting equipment, double-checking readings. There is hesitation, not because of danger, but because of uncertainty. Radar technology is still new. Interpretation is not fully standardized. A report is made, then reviewed, then softened by doubt. Inside Pearl Harbor, the morning continues unchanged. Ships remain anchored in their assigned positions. Maintenance continues. Personnel move between stations at normal pace. No defensive posture is activated. No alarm is triggered because threats in expectation are supposed to arrive with clarity. And clarity is absent, so the uncertainty is set aside and the morning continues forward. 7:30 a.m. Final coordination over the ocean. Above the Pacific Ocean, Japanese aircraft move into final formation. Engines run in controlled rhythm, not loud enough to suggest urgency, but steady enough to suggest purpose. pilots sit in silence, reviewing final instructions already memorized. No unnecessary communication occurs. Every gesture is minimal, efficient. Final confirmations are exchanged. Below them, the ocean stretches in uninterrupted calm. Oahu remains unchanged. The harbor is still. Ships remain exactly where they have been for days. Some sailors are already awake. Others are finishing breakfast. And in this quiet continuity, there is no indication of what is approaching. 7:55 a.m., the sky breaks open. The first movement is subtle. Shapes appear overhead, then accelerate. Aircraft descending rapidly toward the harbor in structured formation. The silence breaks almost instantly. Explosions erupt across multiple points of the harbor in quick succession. A battleship is struck, then another, then another. Water rises violently into the air in towering bursts. Steel structures shudder under sudden force. Smoke begins forming almost immediately, thick and dark against the morning sky. On ships and on shore, confusion spreads faster than understanding. Some sailors rush to stations believing this may still be a drill, a mistake, a miscommunication. But within seconds, that interpretation collapses completely because this is not training. It is attack. 8:10 a.m. The harbor becomes fragmented chaos. The second wave arrives seamlessly behind the first. More aircraft, more ordnance, more precision strikes across anchored vessels and airfields. The USS Arizona is struck with catastrophic force. A sudden explosion tears through its structure, sending fire and debris skyward in a single violent moment. Nearby ships attempt to respond, but coordination is already breaking down under pressure. Radio channels fill with overlapping transmissions. Orders are issued, repeated, corrected, and lost again. Smoke spreads across the harbor, reducing visibility to shifting layers of gray and black. The reflection of water disappears beneath fire and ash. And yet, even in chaos, there is hesitation in understanding, because the scale of what is happening still exceeds immediate comprehension. 8:30 a.m. The sky fills with fire and movement. Aircraft continue sweeping across the island in structured waves. Fuel depots ignite, sending columns of black smoke into the air. Hangars collapse under repeated impacts. Aircraft on the ground are destroyed before engines can start. Personnel attempt evacuation routes that are already compromised. Runways are rendered unusable within minutes. The sky above Pearl Harbor is no longer open. It is layered with motion, fire, and debris. Anti-aircraft fire rises upward in scattered bursts, but coordination is incomplete. Every response is reactive rather than planned. The attack is no longer a single moment. It is a sequence unfolding continuously, each wave reinforcing the damage of the last. And still, it continues. 9 a.m. Expansion beyond the harbor. A third wave arrives. The attack spreads outward from the harbor into broader infrastructure targets. Airfields are struck systematically. Communication systems are damaged. Fuel reserves are ignited or rendered inaccessible. The ability to organize a coherent defense diminishes rapidly. Smoke now covers large portions of the island, drifting slowly across landscapes that were calm only hours earlier. Sunlight filters through ash, giving the entire environment a muted, distant tone. And within command structures, a realization begins to form, slowly, then all at once. This was not a raid. It was a coordinated attempt to neutralize an entire naval force in a single morning. 10 a.m., withdrawal across the horizon. The intensity begins to fade. Aircraft that filled the sky begin to turn back toward the horizon in organized waves. Formation lines reassemble in the distance. One by one, they disappear into open ocean. What remains is no longer motion, it is aftermath. Burning vessels, damaged infrastructure, oil spreading across water in slow, dark patterns. Rescue efforts begin immediately, though they are overwhelmed by scale. Survivors move through smoke-filled air, searching for others still alive. And the harbor, once structured and calm, now exists in fragments of destruction and fire. 12 p.m. Understanding the full scale. By midday, reports extend beyond the island. Command centers confirm the extent of damage. Multiple battleships destroyed or heavily damaged. Thousands of casualties confirmed or unaccounted for. Air capabilities in the region significantly reduced. The structure of Pacific defense fundamentally altered in a matter of hours, and across the United States, the transition begins from peace into war, a shift that cannot be reversed. Afternoon, global reaction and consequence. News spreads rapidly through military and civilian channels. Shock replaces confusion. In Washington, decisions begin forming that will define the coming years of conflict. Mobilization begins. Communication networks activate at national scale. And across the world, it becomes clear that what happened at Pearl Harbor was not isolated. It was transformative, a turning point that altered the trajectory of global history. The attack on Pearl Harbor now stands as one of the defining moments of the Second World War. Evening, aftermath, and silence. As evening returns to Oahu, the harbor remains damaged and still. Smoke rises slowly into fading light, drifting upward in soft, continuous motion. Ships continue burning in quiet endurance. Rescue operations move carefully through debris and water. There is no restoration of normalcy, only response, only recovery, and the beginning of a war that will stretch far beyond this single morning. Because what began in silence now echoes across the world, and history has already changed course.